In this short video, I will demo how to create a connection to Microsoft Azure File Store, then create a DataStage flow that write data to Azure File Store, as well as read data from Azure File Store, and then write to DB2 Warehouse. Let's get started. First, let's create a connection to Microsoft Azure File Store. So add to project, select connection. Here, I will use file to find Microsoft Azure File Storage. Select. So give a name as dsdemo Azure file. And the next, you need a connection credential. So let's find the credential. I'm going to get this credential, stick it here. Let's test connection. Connection test was successful. So quit. That will give me the connection here. So now let's create a data flow. We will call this data flow name as test Azure file access. Okay, now canvas is ready. Let's use asset browser to find my favorite data asset, which is the file in S3. So I'm going to work with this file. Now use asset browser to find Azure file storage connection. The connection I created earlier was dsdemo Azure file. So let me select this. Let me select this container. Okay, I'm going to use this container. So check it. Let's connect the source to target. This one, let's quickly review the property for source. Source is to read from dsdemo S3, use DataStage property, read single file, read from dsdemo 2021 bucket, read cells 5K with column.csv file. We know this file read is successful. First line is header. Let's review the output column collection. This looks good. It inferred the schema correctly for me, so I'm going to leave that alone. Let's go to the target set. Target set, it basically says write to dsdemo Azure file. That's a connection we just created a little bit earlier. Read mode is write. Write to my container, this container, and it need a file name. Let me give cells 5K. Test.csv, give a file name as this. And we want the first line as header, so that it has a header there. Okay, that's pretty much it in terms of reading a file and write to Azure File Storage. Now let's also build the second pipeline to show how to read from files in Azure File Storage. So we use asset browser again to navigate to the connection dsdemo Azure file, find my container, find the file that I already loaded earlier. It's identical file. I just upload a copy into this particular container. Then let's use asset browser to find DB2 Warehouse. Let's find connection, DB2 Warehouse. We want to write to this schema, connect the source to target. Okay, so now let's review this property. It says read from dsdemo Azure file connection, read a single file, read from my container, read my cells 5K with the columns.csv. Let's preview to make sure it is able to read file properly. Preview works fine. So file format is CSV, reading in UTF-8, first line is header, so everything looks good so far. So save. Actually, before we do save, let's check the output column collection. Okay, schema is inferred correctly so far. So I'm going to just save it. Now let's move on to target. Okay, so it's write to DS demo DB2 warehouse 2021. Write mode is file. Write to schema DB2 inst1. Table name, we are going to give a table name as sales 5K from Azure file. I'm going to give sales 5K from Azure file as the name. And I'm going to give table actually as a replace so that I can retry over and over if I really hit any problem. And input. So column collection is also propagated correctly. That's all good. So now let's save and compile, then run this flow to see what happens. So the job should be running now. Okay, this job is run has been executed successfully, so that's all good. So to see what happens, let's preview the target to see if the target has been populated correctly. Let's preview preview data. Okay, so this is to preview a file on Azure file storage. It looks good. Now let's preview the DB2 warehouse table. Preview data. That is also successful. So that confirms that we're able to load the data to DB2 warehouse successfully. So this test is successful, which verifies that we are able to work with Azure files storage successfully, both as a source and a target. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day.